Thank you very much. It's nice to be here. My name is Jorrik Klijnsma. I'm a front-end engineer at Soprasteria. It's a Dutch company that's part of the European-sized company Soprasteria. As a front-end developer, I like to be next to where the users are, interact with users, and VR web development is something that's might be the next stage of front-end development. I already shared you a bit of who I am and what I'm going to tell you. This is me 2 days before picking up my Vision Pro, my Apple Vision Pro. This was 1 day after it launched in the Apple stores in the USA. Me and a colleague made a trip to the USA, to New York, to get these headsets on release, because it intrigued me how this is, it feels like a step into the future, like a glimpse you get into the future. I've a VR Apple Vision Pro headset for over a year now. There's been some mixed feelings involving the Vision Pro, but I still think there is value in it as a device, and maybe some numbers are not as expected, but I still think VR somewhere in the future will get its place in the digital space. This is also, you can see it because other headsets are rising. You have the Oculus Quest, which is a bit cheaper, actually way cheaper. It's more used for gaming, but all these headsets come with their own native browser. I think that's part of why a VR-ready website, VR-first website, is something that can be very interesting. Because if we end up with a situation where we're all wearing these VR glasses, the websites will adapt to that situation. So we probably have immersive websites, might have these e-commerce websites where you just walk around as if you're browsing through a store. But that's not in the near future the case. For the time being, we have a lot of users that use VR headsets, and maybe even just for gaming. But they also might want to browse on their website, or when they're gaming, when they have a 5-minute break, they want to check out some stuff on the internet, and it can be a hassle to take your headset off, go back to your laptop computer or your phone, and then go back into the VR experience. So browsing in VR is happening, but the experience is not great. A lot of websites are not made for browsing on a VR headset. I think it can be improved, so we just have regular-looking websites without all the meta environment stuff. Can be really accessible for developers to build, but also accessible to use on a VR headset. A little bit of a warning up front. I am doing a live demo of the Vision Pro and showing a website and then certain implementations of best practices. But that might be causing a little bit nausea, because then the screen is moving all over the place. I try to keep my head very steady, but we will get there. But this is already a warning. If it's not for you, then you might want to close your eyes at that moment. Just so you know. Imagining browsing a web page without using a screen or mouse. Are there people here who have a VR headset themselves? Quite a few. That's nice. Have one of you browsed the internet on your VR devices? Yeah, a couple as well. Um, yeah, you might have figured out that not everything works as properly as you would expect on a mobile device or on a desktop laptop. And one of these things is that because of the different input options, for example, hand tracking, eye tracking, using some remote, it can be hard to select little things, work with hovers and all these things. Like I said, VR headsets exist already for a while, but they are rising in popularity. It's not like it took off the recent years, but still, if we look at the numbers, devices that use VR or VR devices, AR devices, mixed reality devices are still in a growth state. Yeah, we've seen this before with other technologies that started slower, had more niche target groups, but it's not unimaginable that a decent amount of users will be visiting your websites from one of these devices. And therefore, I think it's really good to understand that VR websites don't need to be 3D spatial environments. We've seen all these demos with apps where you just drag them around. You use the space around you to be part of the app's function and interaction. And not all websites need that. We have a VR AR API in JavaScript, and you can create these VR experiences, actually full games and videos you can play in your browser using one of these headsets. But not every website it's the best use case for. Like I said, shopping through an e-commerce website as if you're browsing through a store might be very nice, but if you just want to go for a quick search for a product, an interface might still be the way to go. I think therefore, especially in a transition period where websites now are often not VR compatible or VR ready, to a state where maybe everything is VR ready, if that ever happens, I think it's nice to adopt current websites to be viewed in a nice way and bridge that gap to a more VR future. And we've seen this before. Let's go a little bit over a web design time machine. Initially, we step in the DeLorean and we go to the first time period. We step out of this machine in the 90s, and this is what websites looked at that time. They're not mobile friendly. They use very specific techniques, things we do not often use anymore. But they were very fixed on certain screen sizes and usages. Here this would not be very doable on a VR headset. You see the contrast, but this is also not very useful on device we use now. So we've used these websites, and we already transitioned to newer design systems. They also benefited the previous systems. So let's jump back again in the DeLorean and move a bit forward to the next time frame. And here we arrive at the zeros. We started to see more and more people being on the internet. Websites got a little bit more fancy, but still elements are on there, not very visible on mobile screens, just because they weren't any mobile screens at that moment, not made for viewing websites. So this is the next phase into the design of websites. Now moving forward to the next time frame, we got the 19s, we got the zeros. You probably can guess where we end up now. The 10s. Here we see that more content is added to the web. Images appeared more often because internet speeds become faster. Videos appeared. We wanted to see more content online, and the technology was there, so this grew hand in hand. So where the previous ones you saw a lot of text or very easy illustrations, here you see already a little bit more content focused. Well, you have an image with a title, and it's a thumbnail for a video. So you see this content is more being part of the web development and the web design. Here as well, even more content focused. Interaction between people is happening on social media, and you will see that reflected in the design. More themes and WordPress, mobile themes responsiveness happened during this period because in this time also the mobile usage rised. I think somewhere along the 10s, the switch was made of more desktop usage on the internet to more mobile usage on the internet. And you see that designs got more minimalistic, more content focused, responsible for different devices. Branding happened way more than it happened earlier on. Internet became a big marketing platform where you just show what your brand is about. Now let's step back into the DeLorean and step out in the 20s again. Here where we are now, what to see is every device needs to be compatible. For everyone, your website needs to be compatible. There are EU regulations, Dutch regulations on what accessibility standards you need to meet. We got way more devices than a couple years ago. For example, television screens now can have browsers, and people do use them, or more apps on TV screens. And what you see here is even less text, more content, and this trend was continued. The layout got improved with distinguishable blocks. And now here, to fill the second half of those 20s, we need this maybe new perspective on web development from the VR perspective. Things you noticed when you start working with designing for websites for VR is that you have different input types. Eye tracking is something that's not happening on laptops or on mobile phones, at least not to control your device. Eye tracking brings along new issues. For example, when you need to click over here on a web page, but something over there happens. Or you have these images where you see a before and after, and you can drag the slider. It's hard to interact, but also see the difference of those images. So eye tracking can get some complications to your website. Using hand gestures is also something that's happening more often, where you can just fling away your website or a pop-up or something like that. This also makes interaction with the website a bit more low effort, because if you need to move your mouse to a part of the screen, tap it, or if you have your mobile phone, like just looking at something or just moving your hand like this to select something is a really low effort action. Be it that what you need to do is of a significant size. So if you need to be really focused on a really small detail, precisely select the 3 little dots to see more, then it can be very intensive. Like, it can be hard to focus on a really specific part. Spatial awareness is happening. For example, one of the biggest feedback points of the Vision Pro after launch was that you were only able to see one screen of your MacBook or iMac on your device and not put like 5 screens around. The thing is that you have apps on the Vision Pro, so when I have my 2 screen setup, on one screen I have my browser, on the other I have my code editor. So now when I'm using my laptop and one screencast into my Vision Pro, I have a problem because I have my browser and my editor. But there's a solution because the Vision Pro just has a web browser, Safari, and you can just put it over there. And I can put my email over there, and my music player over there, and my Slack over there. So I can focus on my editor with my browser, but I actually have all these screens around me, and when the email is coming, I just can look over there and see if it's important instead of switching screens and being out of my focus state. So the spatial awareness also is different on a VR headset because you can use everything around you. Have these little timers on your desk to keep track of Pomodoro time, for example, or notification bars, like all these things. It's a different way when you're designing for VR. Some of the principles, I already showed a couple. Button design in VR. Size matters in this case, because when I said if you need to really click on a really specific couple pixels, it can be hard. And it's way easier to just pick a big button and be somewhere near it and then just click. For example, here you can see how you can create a button with a bigger font, bigger padding, using CSS. I have created an example of this. I need to close move this over to the other side. Okay, so here you see 2 examples of a button. This is a regular button, just for desktop or mobile. But the VR button, you see it has more space around. When you offer it has a bigger touch area than the button itself. And these are just really small principles that would help a user being able to click this button. And you can do these things for regular websites as well. If you, there don't need to be a big impact into changing your current state of the website or developing new. It's no real big difference in the development part. The other side. Another thing is rethinking page flow, because on VR headsets you can browse way faster and process way faster than you can do on a laptop or desktop or mobile. Because we will see in a minute, you have this big screen in front of you, just like all of you have now, but then with a browser page. So you can scan pages really quickly. Moving through the page is not that hard, not that complex. It's an easy, low-effort action, and therefore you can rethink how users would flow through your website. For example, vertical content works really well on VR device. You just swing up or move your hand tracking up or your controller. So this is very easy to process. Also, going from the sidebar to the menu, like on desktops, you scan these devices in a certain heat map. On the VR headsets, this is different. Also because the screen can be very huge, can be very small, but relative to the user, it more often feels like a TV-sized browser. On TV, it's also very nice to just scroll content in blocks below each other instead of having all these sidebars and things going on. It'd also be very useful to have multiple paths leading to your to certain different pages. What I'm meaning with that is that because it might be nice to have a bit fewer content on a single page, and then just click through and end up where you want to be. So the flow state of which pages you have, they can be more connected and have more paths to a certain outcome, and click through for more pages, for example, to your user account or to another user, instead of always following the same progress or the same buttons. Here also a little demo on how the nope. Yeah, so this is how we all know websites. You already see as a user from such a distance, you have all these sections and they interfere with each other. They want to all have your attention. When you are close up of your screen and you can read it a bit better, then you can scan this easier than when you're in the back. Content just looks different like that. This is a very VR-friendly approach. What you see is, for example, again with televisions, where you have the Netflix app, you just have this long list of sections, and you just can see different parts left to right as sliders. This is something that works very well on VR headsets as well. Another thing is the way of how you input certain things. For example, voice to text is very useful because typing on a VR headset can be a bit of a hassle. Auto-completion, all these type of things, or like suggestions are very useful. And because of the massive amounts of different ways of inputting or controlling your device, one thing that's very nice is the click to glaze. You see this very often in things like the Meta Quest, and where you just can look at a button, it fills up, and when it's ready filling up, it clicks. This is an example implementation using JavaScript. There's also something that would not hurt your regular website. You just add this functionality, and there's no issue in applying this. And yeah, this makes VR websites can be improved them a bit. Also have a demo on this. So here we see we have a gaze activated button. So when I hover this, a little bar goes across, is counting, and now the click event is fired right after the bar is full. This can be done with buttons. You can cancel it by just looking away. It also works for links. Oh. Always wanted to rickroll such an audience at the presentation, so thanks for making that possible. Yeah, so this is another way of how you can change your current website or current application with little effort to help VR headsets, VR users. Yeah, I've shown you some examples, but I think it's time for a little bit of a Vision Pro demo. So this is the part where I told about a little bit about the nausea. For me, it's very smooth, but it can be lagging a bit. So if someone thinks I move around a bit too much, let's agree you shout barf, and then I try to stay a little bit more steady. And do feel free to do so, because when you have this headset on, it becomes very natural, and you forget that you have this headset on. I need to connect this to the laptop, so A little moment. Are there fellow Vision Pro owners in the room? Not seeing any hands. Oh, not the MacBook from Florian, this MacBook. Yes. So, I think you can all see. Bad connection? Or your lost connection?
Je scherm wordt niet gedupliceerd op het grote.
Okay, so there you all are. I think, can you see the screen? Because if I turn around, I see just the black screen. Okay, so again, this is what it looks with a Vision Pro on. It's a bit dark here, so it can have a little bit of a trouble, but it will work. I will try to move slowly. Let me put it over here. This is an example application I made for a YouTube ripoff. So what I can do is I can make the screen really big. I think this is now maybe as big as the cinema screen. I can move it around using this bar. I can make it this small, get it really up close, but this is a bit too close for me. So let's put it over here and see things that we're working with. So this is, let me try to be a bit steady. So what you're noticing, I'm using big blocks of content, these content cards. They help me to easily process what's on there, but also easy access to the clicking area. So let's say I want to see this playlist. I can open it and I see all these big buttons that are easy to click on. My user profile, which is in the top here, is just small enough to be able to reach it without a lot of effort. Also because the room around it, there's space around it, so it's easy to find that one. And here you can see how big cards really help the process of going over this website. This is an example playback page. Again, you see big buttons to just help you reach them, a lot of space around them, and it's a very minimal looking page. If we compare this to the regular YouTube website, they updated their VR version. It's the mobile version of the website. Let's search for webdev.com and see here, for example, you have this as the user or the profile button. I can click that. But now to reach those little dots, it can be a bit hard I need to really focus to select those, and I already clicked next to it. It's a very small window. And these things you come across very often when looking at websites through a VR headset. So when I want to watch the video, I play it. You see these buttons are very close to each other, making you really easy misclick one of them. So there's still a lot of room here, and if you would place them further apart, they would be easier to reach and to grab. I'm not hearing any barf, so things are going okay. So this is an example of how the regular YouTube website looks compared to an example of what a VR-ready version would look like with, again, bigger buttons, bigger areas, not much to click on by accident around click areas. And this is something that, that you can see how it can be different from watching a web page on your television, because the size comes close to a television, comparing to how much you as a user are distant from the website. I always like to check the Apple website itself, because I think they do a bad job on creating a website VR ready. You already see like very small menu items, easy to click wrong. And I think this is something where you see how easily you can move around on the website. They use big content blocks. That's very nice. But here it's a disaster to select what you want. Trying to get to the vision link. Need to time it very good with the jitter of the eye tracking. This is nice as a user to see, but the small little menu items, they are not very easy to interact with. I think we have a little bit time left. Is there someone who thinks of a website that we can have a look at together? Someone that finds it interesting seeing my website, or I'm curious how this website would look in VR. No, then I think we're going back to the presentation. Let me put away my Vision Pro. So I think what we've seen is that website can still have their website look and feel, but also be VR ready. The YouTube app can be used on other screens as well, but it's also easy to navigate on a VR headset. I think the key takeaways for getting your website VR ready is you don't need this fancy 3D meta space environment. You need to consider the different input types, help users with auto-completion, with tags or ways to click through to different pages, more than you have now, and make it easy to have content big, but also the things that you read and need to click on big, and don't do things here where you need to click over there or the other way around. I think I want to leave you with that idea. Thank you for your attention.